Glaze. They started with an experimental station, W9XHZ, in 1947. And then, on November 11, 1949, at 7:30 p.m., from a converted drugstore in Bloomington, they signed on WTTV Channel 10. Sarkes Tarzian related what happened during this 1984 interview with Joni Kinsler.
We're pleased to welcome as our very special guest today in Indiana, Mr. Sarkes Tarzian, who is the original owner and the founder of WTTV. It's indeed a pleasure to have you with us this morning, Sarkes, and congratulations on a 35th birthday celebration. What was it like 35 years ago when you were getting everything ready to go?
Well, it was pretty hectic.
I would imagine.
Yeah, being a new adventure in electronics, and here was Bloomington that didn't have a radio station until 1949, going into television in a small community, which was pretty foolhardy at the time. And we'd been working for 2 years trying to build the equipment, the cameras, the transmitter, and so on. And we had a group of very capable engineers on the job, like Walt Weigel, God bless his soul, and Bob Young, and Slim Fuller, and the rest of them. But it looked as if it was never going to end. We'd never be on the air. So about 2 months before November, I looked at where we were and what we had done so far, and I told them that on November the 11th, 1949, at 7:30, we were going, in the evening, we were going to go on the air, and we were going to get Homer Capehart, senator from Indiana, to dedicate the station, and that was that.
What kind of a feeling was it once you were actually on the air and things were rolling?
Well, once we got on the air, fortunately, nothing drastic happened. We were able to stay on for 2 hours and dedicate the station, and it was surprising how fast the station and the performance of the programs and everything else improved as time went on, because everyone who was connected with it, the whole community was judging what they were doing with what they put on the air.
What was some of the early programming at that time?
Well, we would do a lot of interviews. We didn't have coax cable, nor do we have cathode ray films made on cathode ray tubes and shipped around the country at that time. So we had to depend on local talent. We'd have the mayor down telling us the things, his problems, and things that we could do to help him out. And we had the brilliant idea, since we were right across from the high school, of putting in a line between the station then, which was on South Walnut Street, and the playing field, both indoor and outdoor. So as a result, we carried basketball games and football games, and that was very interesting to the people.
Can you imagine what it must have been like in 1949? We asked George Morel, one of the engineers that worked with Sarkes Tarzian from the beginning, what it took to put the station on the air.
A lot of guts. Well, remember, we didn't have anything, so we had to make everything. So you start from scratch and you work yourself up until you get a signal on the air.
And what was that first signal like?
Oh, that was marvelous. We couldn't even believe it ourselves. We were just lucky.
Bloomington, population 28,000, had become the smallest community in the United States to have its own television station. But what were they watching on?
6-inch set they were selling in a great big metal box that weighed a ton, all heavy transformers in it and everything else. Well, we thought it was great.
The first thing actually seen on WTTV was the Indian head test pattern. But this proved boring, so the engineers came up with an inventive alternative.
So I asked my son to sit on a bench, and he read a book while we televised him. It was interesting. He didn't think anything of it. His mother thought it was great when she saw it on TV at home.
Now you know who our first star was.
On the air, yeah.
We'll be back to take a behind-the-scenes look at those early years right after this.
50 Years for Indiana is brought to you by Marsh. At Marsh, we value you.
Everybody needs somebody to love. Someone to love. I need you. Sometimes I feel really flat inside. Everybody laugh with me. You know I'm always gonna keep it satisfied. I need you.
The Drew Carey Show. Coming September 13th to WB4.
Chevrolet cars are trusted by more Americans than any other. Chevy trucks are the most dependable, longest lasting on the road. If that's not enough reason to own a Chevrolet car or truck, then this definitely is. The Great Summer Drive-In from Chevrolet. You can get behind the wheel of a '99 Chevy Cavalier and get $2,000 cash back or low 0% APR financing. Or check out the offers on other great Chevrolet cars and trucks. It's Chevrolet's Great Summer Drive-In. See your local Chevrolet dealer today.
You have a feeling it's your transmission, but you're not sure. You want to ask someone, but you don't know who. At AMCO, they've been answering transmission questions for as long as they've been fixing them. That's over 35 years. What's that noise? What does that drip mean? Is it even my transmission? It's all very good questions. Call the experts at AMCO and get some very good answers. Call 1-800-GO-AMCO, AA-MCO.
A special announcement from the American Property Network. You can buy cars for as low as $500. Choose from thousands of cars repossessed and seized by the U.S. Marshal, IRS, FBI, and private organizations. Call 1-800-500-2213. Foreclosed homes and distressed properties are also available for sale. Call 1-800-500-2213. For current auction listings, call 1-800-500-2213. Call toll-free.
WTTV remembers 50 years for Indiana. January 7, 1970, Cowboy Bob rode onto the screen for a 16-year stay astride an Appaloosa horse named Freckles. Freckles was soon replaced with a Palomino named Clyde, better known as Windjammer. Then in 1979, a retired sheriff's mount named Perfection's Lassie was purchased and named Sky by our viewers. Cowboy Bob, part of our 50 years for Indiana. This television memory is brought to you by Marsh. At Marsh, we value you in WV4 Indiana.
This weekend, say goodbye to summer and to high furniture prices with half-off savings from Value City Furniture. Save half on this contemporary sofa and matching love seat, just $498. Save half on this great-looking 4-piece bedroom, just $398. Save half on a lighted oak finish curio cabinet, just $98. Or save half on this lovely 4-drawer chest, just $33. Don't miss the fabulous half-off Labor Day weekend sale at Value City Furniture. You just can't do any better.
Hey, Princess, what you doing?
When I kiss this frog, he will turn into a handsome prince, and we will live happily ever after.
Wouldn't you rather have some Honey Nut Cheerios?
Maybe we should just be friends.
Honey Nut Cheerios, they're irresistible. You're not really a prince, are you?
Now when you feed your kids, feed their minds. Get free Microsoft software and a free month of internet access. Details on marked boxes.
Television was a crude medium in the early 50s, and Sarkes Tarzian and his group of broadcasting pioneers had to invent and adapt equipment every step of the way.
We planned it in 1947. We applied to the FCC for a television license for Bloomington, so they went up to Indianapolis and gave us Channel 10 that Indianapolis had been assigned for us to go ahead and try to build the transmitter and the equipment and the cameras and so on, because you couldn't buy these things at that time.
Say, you couldn't buy any? You couldn't buy a tower, could you?
No. Well, towers, you could improvise somehow, but cameras and a Channel 10 transmitter were not available. So our engineers built the devices, and it took us 2 years to get it together, and I just got tired of waiting for us to go on the air.
We did not have a modern camera as you would envision today. What we had were a home-built camera that was built by Mort Weigel believe it or not, Mort Weigel, Biagio Presti, and one other gentleman, I can't remember his name. They actually assembled the camera because Mr. Tarzian said, how much would it be if we bought a camera? They said around $50,000. He said, how much would it be if we bought the parts? I said, about $3,500. He said, buy the parts. Same way with our first transmitter that they built. At that time, television transmitters were not available. Just pick up the phone and order one. You had to place an order, wait for them to build it, mass produce it. It might be 2 years. In 1948, Mr. Tarzian decided that he was going to see about getting a television station on the air. So he told Mort, he said, how much would it be to have a transmitter? He said, probably $100,000. How much is it if we buy the parts? He said, about $30,000. He said, go buy the parts. Now, Mort Weigel was a very intelligent man. He sat down and built the first television transmitter in his garage at his home. They put it on the air. They had one studio camera. They had one 16-millimeter film camera. And while the announcer would read a spot with slides, the TD would have to run in, take the film off, put the next film up while the 30 seconds was on, get it ready to roll, and then run back in the other room, roll the film, and put it on the air.
While the engineers were inventing ways to keep the station on the air, the Tarzians were assembling a talent pool of creative pioneers.
A lot of hurry up, hang seamless on the wall, design a set, paint it on the wall on paper. When the show was over, we'd tear the paper off, put another roll up there, and paint something else. But we did all of our artwork, brush, paint buckets, and we did our point-of-sale advertising. A lot of the old artwork for television had to be done on tiny cards because the original artwork went into the video equipment. And we made them about a little 3x4 illustration on little metal clips, and we'd insert them like slides into the machine. And we did that for a number of years. But as television advanced and newer ideas and technology broadened out what art is all about, then we expanded to building bigger sets. And over those years, I designed sets, did newspaper work, did illustrations for magazine, did all of the what are today called billboards in television, but it was all done by hand. We had no technology to help us in those days, you see.
Sarkes Tarzian passed away in 1987, but he left a legacy that continues on today.
Very gentle man. Knew what he was doing. Businesslike. He gave you a project and you did it. That was it. If it didn't work, we started something else.
They came to work every day and stopped by the building and chatted with people. And I attended meetings where they always came in and presented themselves as kind of like the head of a family.
Sometimes, you know, obstacles are means by which we can develop and grow. And I think that's true of WTTV. When we had all the networks and eventually we had to give them all up and develop independent programming, it was a very difficult struggle. And for 7 to 8 years, we sunk in millions of dollars to make WTTV what it is today, and we're very happy that we were able to do it.
When we come back, we'll show you how some familiar Indiana faces got their start with WTTV, and we'll take you on a Hoosier caravan that was part of our 50 years for Indiana.
Now, two big sounds, AM radio and FM radio. Both at one low price. It's the Sarkes Tarzian AM/FM radio, now on sale for only $29.95. Yes, Sarkes Tarzian, famous maker of electronic parts and equipment, now introduces the Sarkes Tarzian AM/FM radio at a price everyone can afford. A turn of the switch and you get today's top AM radio tunes. Or for a quieter moment, you enjoy the full sound of FM radio. one plastic Mar-proof cabinet. The two big sounds of AM and FM radio from Sarkes Tarzian at one low price. Just $29.95 at the William H. Block Company, downtown in Glendale, and at all Hague drugstores.
Hey, Gus, look at our buddy. He's got dinner for two.
Maybe he has a date.
Now, feast on 2 Long John Silver's meals for the unbelievable price of $5.99. Choose 2 of our classic Fish and More meals, or 2 of our new country-style breaded fish meals, or 1 of each, and all for just $5.99.
Hey, it's a woman.
Oops, wrong apartment.
The 9th annual Southside Auto Dealers tent sale at the Greenwood Park Mall through Labor Day. Incredible deals on Ford, Lincoln Mercury, Oldsmobile, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi. A $75 million inventory. Chrysler, Daewoo, Kia, Volkswagen, Dodge, Jeep, Acura. At prices you won't believe. Maximum trade-in allowance, 0.9 financing. Don't miss the last great deal of the millennium. The 9th annual Southside Auto Dealer tent sale at the Greenwood Park Mall Wednesday through Labor Day.
It's interesting what a man will do to avoid buying a new suit, like convincing himself that he's still a 32-inch waist, or that no one will notice. Well, people notice, which is why we offer the kinds of styles and advice that'll feel as comfortable as your favorite chair. After all, if people are going to notice, it should be for the right reasons. You're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.
The Men's Warehouse. Call 1-800-776-SUIT.
The transmission problem, it's not what you'd wanted, but when your local AMCO dealer fixes it, he can back it coast to coast with the best warranty and coverage in the business. 1 year unlimited mileage, 3 year 50,000 mile, or lifetime. So what does the offer of an AMCO lifetime warranty mean? It means the experts at AMCO stand behind their work. Not just for today, but for as long as you own your car. Call 1-800-GO-AMCO, AA-MCO.
Right now, LensCrafters is having an end-of-summer sun sale. You'll find great prices on sunglasses throughout the store, including a complete pair of prescription sunglasses for only $99. Choose from hundreds of the latest frame styles, and LensCrafters will have your sunglasses ready in about an hour. The end-of-summer sun sale, on now at LensCrafters. Hurry, sale ends soon.
LensCrafters Greenwood Mall is now located next to LS Airs.
It starts with a mastery of medical computer skills, plus excellence in communications, and a detailed knowledge of medical terms and procedures. This is the world of the insurance coder and billing specialist, a career that you can prepare for in as little as a year at Indiana Business College. This is a highly challenging and rewarding career that's in demand in doctors' offices, hospitals, clinics, and insurance companies all over the country. If this sounds like your kind of career, call IBC and get started. Phone 783-5100. That's 783-5100.
It's Tim Hogan's Labor Day Carpet and Flooring Sell-a-thon. Once a year savings on today's best brands. Kid-proof carpet by Mohawk with a 20-year warranty, up to 3 rooms installed, now just $6.99. For Mica brand laminate floors with a 15-year water damage guarantee for as little as $5.99 installed. Mannington vinyl and wood floors, and introducing Shaw ceramic tile. We have it, we install it, and it's on sale now. Shop special hours Sunday and Monday with no payments and no interest for 1 full year. Hurry to Tim Hogan's.
All week long, starting in 8 days.
Can I help you? No thanks, just looking.
Third Rock from the Start.
Coming September 13th to WB4.
One of the promotions that the station did is We're Watching You, Are You Watching Us? And we would take this one camera remote truck out, and with the camera in the door of the truck, we would photograph people walking on the street, and then come back, and they would run maybe 7, 8 times a day. And if somebody saw themselves on TV, they called the station immediately and they won a prize. Most of the time they would call in, and if someone called in, whether we knew that they were the ones or not, they got the prize. So I don't think anybody ever caught on to the fact that we didn't look at the tape.
These scenes were taken from WTTV's newest innovation in videotape technique. Complete with portable generator for electric power, live television pictures can be made while in motion. It would be folly to attempt to demonstrate all the possibilities discovered by WTTV's tape clients. Clients like the ABC television network, clients like television stations in New Orleans, Denver, Detroit, and local retailers. The possibilities are limited only by imagination.
Bob Holben was the general manager here, and he came up with an idea to do a show called Who's Your Hometown Caravan? And this was a show that we did once a week, and it was a remote on tape. And we would travel, there was a country music group out of Bloomington, and Jack Knoll put that together. And we would travel into each one of the little cities across the state, and we would put on a show in their high school auditorium setting and videotape it. And then the next day in that city, we would restage some of the local talent numbers in various and sundry places in the city and edit them into the show. And that was a really good, a nice thing for the community.
Wonderful. Now let's join Mr. Bob Holben.
We're making a short tour of the town of Shelbyville with His Honor, the Mayor, Ralph Van Atta. Ralph, you've been here in Shelbyville actually only 13 years, and you're not a native. Maybe you'd have the proper perspective then to tell us what's good about this town.
Well, Bob, this town is a town of people, and I think that this is the biggest single factor when we're considering a community for a person to make their home. Shelbyville is like many Hoosier communities. It has that Hoosier hospitality, but I think that we have a special brand here.
From Arizona approaching the platform. Tumultuous cheers rising up out of the crowd of more than 8,000 at Southport Gymnasium here in Indianapolis. The senator with his wife, Mrs. Goldwater, now at the platform.
We were the pioneers here of one-camera tape production. And we had an old Clausen's, I think it was Clausen's Bakery truck that the station had bought, and we put a giant 2-inch tape machine. I mean, it's probably about 25 times the size of any one of the tape machines today, and a full-size studio camera. And we would go out and tape commercials, and for the Happy Herb show, we would take him on location various and sundry times throughout the year. And we did a lot of stuff with that one camera. We did the opening of the Indianapolis Zoo all on one camera and came back. And in those days, there was no editing of videotape. The only way you edited videotape was you physically cut it, and then you had to use a solution and put the solution on the edge of the tape and find the frames, and that's how you would splice the tape together. And it was not unusual in one of the shows that we would do where we would have maybe 100 splices in the show. And the engineers used to hate that because we'd have what we called zingers. And every time it would pass through the head, you heard a zing.
Hello, I'm Janie Wood.
And I'm Herb Isaacs, and we're here at the Indianapolis Zoo.
Hey, hold on a minute. You make it sound as if the zoo happened overnight.
Watch it, Herb. I think it's the boss.
Well, let's look at it this way. Once the land where you now are standing was nothing. It had trees, grass, but no zoo.
Where did it come from?
Now you're getting the idea. Where did it come from? Going back about 6 years ago, there was a meeting in a private dining room in one of the downtown hotels where they listened to several speakers. Patrick E. Starkey of L.S. Ayers and Company, Lowell Nussbaum of the Star, and Russell Townsend Sr., who discussed possible locations of a zoo, price for the animals, and, of course, the one big problem, how to pay for it. So you see, the idea of a zoo was in the minds of several even before this meeting, but the realism was slim. Meetings of this kind were the actual beginnings of the zoo, but not without many problems. And before we go on, I would like to introduce Patrick E. Starkey of L.S. Ayres and Company, the president of the Indianapolis Zoological Society. And Pat, I would like for you to meet Janie Woods and Herb Isaacs.
Hello. Mr. Starkey, I'd like to ask the first question. Just when did the real first break come?
Well, the real break came in 1960. But of course, this was preceded by 2 years of looking at sites throughout Marion County to determine the best location for the zoo. In 1960, the real break came. And after selecting George Washington Park as the choice zoo site in Marion County, the Zoo Society went to the Park Board and asked them for the use of the park.
How much was needed for the construction?
We needed $1,050,000. Now, of the amount collected, we had collected $210,000 from the Humane Society of Indianapolis. We'd collected over $125,000 from the Indianapolis newspaper, but we still needed more to reach our goal. So Russ Hirschman, an executive of the Indiana Bell Telephone Company, following up Al Smith, our previous fund campaign chairman, in his footsteps, decided he would take over the chairmanship of the fund drive to raise the balance of this money.
Well, Pat, who's going to run the zoo if the board of directors are non-paid?
The board of directors are non-paid, so consequently, we talked to Mr. Ron Ruther, who was assistant director of the Cleveland, Ohio Zoo.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. The zoo will be self-supporting. The $130,000 annual budget will be met from ticket sales. And now that you know how the zoo came about, let's take a look at it.
A tour of the zoo with Herb Isaacs and Janie Woods.
Every Christmas we did we took the 10 county high schools, if they're probably more now, but there were 10 county high schools, and we would bring them into the studio and pre-record their sound, and then take them out on location, again with the one-camera truck, and put together an hour special, all shot on location with them doing choreography and things like that. And that was a real good thing. We did a lot of live stuff in those days.
Christmas at home, I feel it all year through. Though I roam, my heart returns ever new to Christmas at home. Holiday cheer and care
I have loved you, and I hope you've loved me, and watch for me someplace else, okay? Bye-bye.
50 Years for Indiana is brought to you by your local Long John Silver's restaurants.
It's Tim Hogan's Labor Day Carpet and Flooring Sell-a-thon. Once a year savings on today's best brands. Kid-proof carpet by Mohawk with a 20-year warranty, up to 3 rooms installed, now just $6.99. For Mica brand laminate floors with a 15-year water damage guarantee for as little as $5.99 installed. Mannington vinyl and wood floors, and introducing Shaw ceramic tile. We have it, we install it, and it's on sale now. Shop special hours Sunday and Monday with no payments and no interest for 1 full year. Hurry to Tim Hogan's.
WTTV remembers 50 years for Indiana. Kids clubs have been part of WTTV since 1953, when Uncle Bob Hardy hosted the Western Ledger Show. The fan club had 61,000 card-carrying members. Hardy and TV Wonder Horse Rhythm held the first Western Ledger Roundup at McCormick's Creek in 1954. Over 35,000 people came. Today, the WB's Kids Club continues the tradition with over 80,000 members. This television memory has been brought to you by Marsh. At Marsh, we value you in WB4.
Now, an important tool to defend yourself against heart disease and some cancers is in your hands. Because now, studies confirm that eating whole grain foods like Total, Wheaties, and Cheerios as part of a low-fat diet may reduce your risk of heart disease and certain cancers. Most cereals are not whole grain, but all of these from General Mills are. Look for this seal to be sure and help defend yourself against heart disease and cancer.
At Steak and Shake, we're a restaurant. I do the waiting. On you. There's more than one way to make a shake. And we admit, their way is more efficient. But when was the last time you sipped a shake and said, that tastes efficient?
Steak and Shake, famous for steak burgers.
When you buy a bargain basement PC, what you're really buying is a mystery box. Will there be a monitor? Probably not. Lots of software? Ha! A year on the internet, 24/7 tech support? Dream on. With a Gateway Essential PC, you know exactly what you're getting. Monitor, great software, award-winning tech support, and internet access for $28 a month, or less than $1 a day. No mystery there. Call 1-800-GATEWAY for a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor.
Princess, what you doing?
When I kiss this frog, he will turn into a handsome prince, and we will live happily ever after.
Wouldn't you rather have some Honey Nut Cheerios?
Maybe we should just be friends.
Honey Nut Cheerios, they're irresistible. You're not really a prince, are you?
Now when you feed your kids, feed their minds. Get free Microsoft software and a free month of internet access. Details on marked boxes.
WB4 Sports presents the 8th annual Gatorade Joe Hoops 3-on-3 Basketball Hoop Fest. Come jam inside the RCA Dome October 9th. Make a fast break for the convenience stores of Speedway. For an entry form, check out WB4.com or call the Hoops line at 317-272-6200. Joe Hoops is open to all ages and skill levels. Entry deadline is September 29th. Call 317-272-6200. The Gatorade Joe Hoops 3-on-3 Basketball Hoop Fest is brought to you by WB4 Sports.
A woman's newspaper of the air. Everything from facts to fashions to household hints for Who's Your Housewife? Now here's Billy to tell you about today's show.
We are going to have a custom car on the program today. We're also going to have a duet, and they're singing Shenandoah, one of my very favorite songs. And also, we have Fred Farrell, who has a rather unusual preoccupation, I think. And right now, we're going to visit London via our London line, and it's something called a continuum, and this is an art display based entirely on motion.
I was a personality and talent, and we always did this because, you know, we weren't that great. But it was fun. It was fun. I had an interview show. I had probably one of the first of the on-the-air shopping things. I had a show called Swap Shop. And people would call in, and they'd say, I have this, and they'd bring things in the studio, and that was fun. And we did, you know, we got all the personalities who came through, all the celebrities who came through. We had Dick Van Dyke and his brother Jerry, and we had Raquel Welch, and we had a photographer here at the time called Sal Caluro. And Sal was really great. And I kidded him the last time I saw him. I said, yeah, I said, I remember when Raquel Welch was here. I said, all the pictures that he ever took, you know, he took pictures as we interviewed. And I said they were all very nice, very fine. I said, when Raquel came, let's see, there was my hand. Here was my foot. I think that was part of my hair. I mean, it was all Raquel. It was cute. But we did. We had a lot of really great, and they were fun. You know, they were fun. Except that I was the last one. We did everything live. And I was the last one in town. There were 2 other interview shows. And I got them around 3 o'clock. Well, if they got mad at the people who interviewed them before, then they were already mad by the time they got on my show. Oh, no. And Jerry Van Dyke came on. He wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't ahead of time, you know. And his manager said, well, you know, he's a little miffed. Everybody, how's it feel to have a famous brother? And so I said, okay. So I'd ask him a question. He'd say, yeah. I'd ask him something else. He'd say, no. You know, that's death. You know that.
Right.
So I said, I have a story to tell you. He said, okay. He couldn't have cared less. And I said, your dad was in town not too long ago. They had come in, his dad and Dick had come in for a car show of some kind. And I said, your dad, you know, they interviewed your dad. And one of the guys asked his dad, he said, how does it feel to have a famous son? And I said, your dad drew himself up. He was a real short, long guy. I said he drew himself up and he said, which one? And it was, you know, it was a neat little story. And from then on, he said, that's my pop. And from then on, it was a good. But you did, you know, you had to, as I said, everything was live, and you really had to come up with these things that were,
That's an art. I mean, that is a true.
I loved interviewing.
We've had several hypnotists on the program, and we've discussed hypnosis. But we have someone with us today who's actually going to demonstrate the art of hypnotism. I'd like you to meet Fred Farrell. Now, what are you going to show us with Robin?
Well, I haven't suggested anything as of yet. But right now she is under hypnosis. And as you know, the subconscious mind doesn't have any censorship. So whatever suggestions I give to her, she will accept for fact. You are still deep, deep asleep. You will not awaken until I tell you to awaken. I want you to straighten your right arm, straight. Straighten your fingers, stiff, rigid. Your right arm is becoming very stiff, very rigid. Rigid like an iron bar, like a piece of steel. Your right arm is stuck in this position. It's impossible to lower your arm. Try hard to lower your arm. You'll find that it's impossible. Your arm is stuck in this position. Now I'm going to snap my fingers. When I snap my fingers, your arm will fall in your lap, and you will go much deeper, sounder asleep.
Thank you very much, Fred. It's been nice having you, and it's been nice having Robin, and I hope she watches herself on television tomorrow. Right after this message, we have a very beautiful song called Shenandoah by Paul Ernst and Bob Glaze in just a moment.
I had forgotten that I sang on the Billie Boucher show. I ran camera on her show. But I guess she was kind enough to let me sing on it, and she's a dear lady. And Paul Ernst, who was also in our production department, I'd forgotten he and I were a pretty good team. You know, I heard that tape and I just about died. I mean, we were singing Shenandoah. The first thing I noticed, my hair was parted on the other side, which blew me away. Because I've been trying to part it on that side ever since, and it won't work. I look pretty good in that video. But gee whiz, Paul and I were in turtlenecks, and I had a Nehru jacket on. The same jacket that I wore when Janie and I, on the cover of our Christmas album that we did in '68. I mean, that was the big thing back then, those Nehru jackets.
Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you far away, you rolling river. Come back across the rolling water. Away, I'm bound bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Far away, you rolling river, I've crossed for her the rolling water. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I'm bound to leave you far away, you rolling river. I long to hear the rolling water. Away, I'm bound away, across the wide
when we'd have an idea, we could do it. And we did so many things. We had so many really talented people. Bob Holman was station manager at that time, and Art Hook. And we did a thing called Who's Your Caravan? And we traveled all the small towns, and our crew would go in ahead of time and film, you know, in the afternoon or the day before. Then we'd go in with like a musical group and so on. And it was just getting acquainted with who's your hometowns. And so we spotlighted those. And Joe Madden, who was also with it, just reminded me, yeah, in every gymnasium we played was at least 110 or 115 because we did it in the summer. But you could have, we had a plane out here in the back in the field, and I think it was called a gyroscope. It was like a helicopter, but it was only two people, one behind the other. And so, of course, I always wanted to do, you know, whatever was going on. So I got in and I said, it didn't go up like a helicopter. It was like a grasshopper. You went hop, 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 up, straight up, and that was exciting. Then we had a horse show in the back, and I have a picture, and I wish I brought it, but anyway, of me and Cowboy paraphernalia, and I was going to give you the picture and say, this is BBCB, BB before Cowboy Bob. It was so cute. But anyway, it was fun. It was really fun, and Sammy Terry started right then when I did, and just, you know, it was, you could do, as I said, you could do just about it. And then we sponsored the Miss Indianapolis pageant for several years and went up to Miss Indiana. And then I chaperoned Miss Indiana to Atlantic City, which had never been done before because they have their own, you know, chaperones. But that happened to be Eileen Mary Smith, who came in second runner-up.
Oh, wow.
And that was fun. So and I took junkets to, I was in Europe 2 or 3 times, and, you know, the set of movies, and in Hollywood. And I just, I have a picture of Sharon Tate and I right before she left us. So it was a fun time.
I have a story to tell you. 6 years ago this October, I started to work here at WTTV as Community Club Awards Director. And about 9 months later, 8 months later, I went to work as account executive here at the station. And then about 1.5 years later, I became Women's Director. And during this time, I've had a half-hour show on the air. This is my 6th year at Channel 4. And things change, as all things should. And today is my last program for Channel 6. Channel 4. That's one reason why I'm leaving. But anyway, I have enjoyed it very much. I've met some of the most wonderful people. It has left nothing but good memories for me, and I hope it's been the same for you. And I know the crew and the office hates to see me go. They've been wanting me to stay, and in fact, they have said before, you really don't have to leave, do you? And I said, yes, you know, the time has come, and I really do have to leave. And they kept saying, no, don't, you know, because we all love you, and we want you to stay here. And I said, no, It's been a great 6 years. I have loved you, and I hope you've loved me. And watch for me someplace else, okay? Bye-bye.
We'll take a look into the WTTV newsroom when we return with more of our 50 years for Indiana.
Ever hear of six-pack potato chips? Well, maybe not, but here they are, six-pack potato chips, a new idea from Chesty. Chesty's six-pack potato chips cost just 29 cents, a real bargain. But they're worth a lot more than that in convenience alone. Now you can give each of the kids their own individual pack. No more squabbles about who's going to get the most Chesty chips, because everybody has their own. They're a great idea for entertaining, too. Just put out a big bunch of individual Chesty six-packs and let each guest pick one up. And if you're a bedtime snacker like I am, you'll find that a Chesty potato chip six-pack is just the right size for a perfect snack. Of course, you get all the famous Chesty goodness, too. The taste you get only from Chesty's crisp perfection process when you buy six-pack potato chips. Look for this new idea from Chesty. Convenient, economical, six-pack potato chips. Just 29 cents for 6 nickel bags. They're another Chesty food it's fun to eat.
With Hall in tow, turned and walked west on Washington Street, stopping periodically to argue with police.
Mom, I'm nervous.
Texas.
Austin?
You're gonna do great. Kansas.
Topeka.
Hawaii.
Honolulu. Atlanta. Sacramento.
You are good.
Keep them coming, Mom.
Now a study confirms what you've always known. A smart breakfast like this with whole grain oat Cheerios helps kids do better in school.
Mom, give me a tough one.
Vermont.
Montpelier.
The one and only Cheerios.
She can help you with the tough ones.
Mom.
Hey, Gus, look at our buddy. He's got dinner for 2.
Maybe he has a date.
Now, feast on 2 Long John Silver's meals for the unbelievable price of $5.99. Choose 2 of our classic Fish and More meals, or 2 of our new country-style breaded fish meals, or 1 of each, and all for just $5.99.
Hey, it's a woman.
Oops, wrong apartment.
You have a feeling it's your transmission, but you're not sure. You want to ask someone, but you don't know who. At AMCO, they've been answering transmission questions for as long as they've been fixing them. That's over 35 years. What's that noise? What does that drip mean? Is it even my transmission? It's all very good questions. Call the experts at AMCO and get some very good answers. Call 1-800-GO-AMCO, AA-MCO.
We brought you Dodge Durango with best-in-class power, cargo room, and passenger room. Now here's what's new from the new Dodge. Select customers can get a great lease on this 4-wheel drive Durango. Now covered new ground for just $365 a month. What's new from the new Dodge? Just catch the Dodge Summer Clearance.
You shouldn't have to overpay just because you're a big or tall size. After all, life's unfair enough as it is.
The Men's Warehouse.
You're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it.
Look at it, that tree over there. You might be able to see
Where's the cream filling?
Head up.
Now that's the stuff. Hostess.
Hola.
You can make Taco Bell at home with Taco Bell Home Originals. Hey, let's make some tacos.
You have cable, right?
Hey, just because you're grown up, you don't have to act so grown up. There you go. Yeah, man, that's better. Yeah, baby. Oh, try this Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Think it's kid stuff? No, it's cinnamon sugar swirled over squares of wheat and rice. It's good, ain't it? See, there's a new you already. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's the adult thing to do. No, we don't think so.
Would you like to win a free team for the Gatorade Joe Hoops 3-on-3 Basketball Hoop Fest on October 9th? Then go to WB4.com and register to win today.
Sarkes Tarzian founded WTTV on two basic principles. First, station programming was to be an extension of the community. And secondly, television was to serve the community to its full electronic capacity and/or the limits of the imagination. With that in mind, news and public affairs programming were staples for WTTV. Popular newsman Frank Edwards was a major influence in the 1960s market. He opened his nightly talk show with 5 minutes of news and often did his newscast with his dog, Candy.
Frank was basically a newsman, but we developed a nightly talk show and had a lot of guests. It was the era of local nightclubs that brought in a lot of people, and we did it all. We had the Smothers Brothers and Phyllis Diller, I can remember a whole bunch of other stuff. Personalities on a regular nightly basis. So we were doing nightly talk show back then. And Frank would open the show by doing 5 minutes of news. And I was directing the show in its early stages, and I can remember one night, and we never really discussed much in advance because it was all live and just had to sort of follow whatever Frank wanted to do. And we had a little musical combo. Carmen LaFave, who I understand is still around, and I sort of miss working with him. But it took place in this studio, in this very spot where you are. I'm probably sitting right where the piano was. And Frank would be over there, and he'd open the show. And I remember one night he came on, and he said, this is the time when we do the news. And he would usually talk the news, the highlights, local news. And he said, nothing important happened today, so there is no news. And he went right to the entertainment sections of the show. And I thought it was a little strange, but it was very typical of the way we processed information back then. If, in his view, it was not important, there was no sense in wasting any time on it. And, of course, today, the role is to fill it regardless of whether it's important or not.
Frank Edwards was known to have a fascination with flying saucers and the unexplained. He wrote several books on the subject, which can still be found in rare bookstores today. He once brought in eyewitnesses to a flying saucer that apparently flew over the station. We have heard that once he offered a reward on the air to anyone who would bring in an alien body, dead or alive. And now we carry the X-Files? Never being shy about tackling politics, WTTV's Report from the State House started its first season in 1969, following Governor Whitcomb's inauguration, and ran continuously, spanning 2 decades. It was the first time an Indiana governor participated in a regularly televised program. WTTV broadcast the show on a statewide network of both TV and radio stations. News director Mike Ungersma moderated with Public Affairs Director Bob Bloom, one of the WTTV news reporters, and a journalist guest for the panel. Jim Lockwood became news director in 1974 and replaced Ungersma. In the early days of broadcast news, personalities did not command the pay scales they now enjoy. Local weatherman turned national celebrity Wally Bruner was an example.
We had people like Wally Bruner, who later became famous for What's My Line on TV, on national TV. He was our weatherman. And I remember the station manager, who was the mayor's brother. The mayor was Tom Lemon, and the brother was Bob Lemon. You talk about a really good history for the job. He was a cab driver. But he was also a brilliant man who read 5 newspapers every day and convinced Mr. Tarzian that he'd make a great station manager, and he did. Bob Lemon sat down with Wally Bruner one day when Wally was doing the weather, and he got paid $5 to do the weather forecast. And the weather took about 5 minutes to give, and he did it once a day. He was trying to raise a family of children, and he asked for a raise, and Bob said, I can't do that. He said, you're making more money than anybody else in the station. He said, how do you figure? And he said, well, you're only in the air 5 minutes, you're getting paid $5, so that's $1 a minute.
While the network stations have always been more famous for their news, WTTV's news staff took pride in their local approach to the news. On several occasions, WTTV was the first on with breaking news. One such example came in 1963.
Of course, the key, probably the biggest time during that period of time that everybody remembers where they were was the Kennedy assassination. We had a show on the air that Noah Miller was hosting. It was a bingo show sponsored by, I believe, Standard Grocery at that time. You'd get your bingo cards from the grocery store and you'd sit in front of the television set and we'd call out numbers and then people would win and they'd take them back to the grocery store and collect their prizes. And Herb Isaacs, who was Happy Herb and later in the sales department, and I were walking down the hall way back here by Master Control, which is where the AP and wires came in at that time. And the alarm bells went off. I'd never heard an alarm bell on a wire machine before. I didn't know what it was because we had no news department at that time. And these things were going crazy. They were banging off the wall. All I ever went in there for was to read the weather, to find out what the weather was going to be tomorrow. And so this thing was going crazy, and we went in to find it. Herb was first, because he understood what it was. He knew about the machines. I'd only been here, I think, about a month at the time. And this was the first real experience I had in any kind of news gathering system or anything to do with that. At the time, I must have been 12, I think, or somewhere thereabouts. But we read the wire, we couldn't believe it. And finally, Herb decided on his own at that point, without any further authority, to stop what was going on in the air and walk into the studio, walk in the middle of the show, tell Noah to stop this machine, and handed him the wire. Noah then had to read this announcement absolutely cold, not seeing the copy before, not knowing anything about it, that the President of the United States had been shot. At that point, we didn't know what the status was of Kennedy. We only knew that he'd been shot. We didn't know what to do. I mean, here, this is a national news story. We broke it probably about 15 to 20 minutes before anybody else in town had it, because we happened to have a live show on the air at the time. Everybody else, the other stations in town, were running network. We were practically a radio station because we were instantaneous. So that came out. We went on then, at that point, finished the show out, and then the powers that be were trying to make decisions about what to do. By that time, the news was coming through that Kennedy had died. Somewhere later that afternoon, we started out by just putting camera hods up and putting pictures up and taking pictures of those with the studio cameras and just playing soft music underneath them because we didn't know what else to do. We finally got a feed through, maybe Art, when he comes on, could fill in a little bit more, from CBS. And we're allowed to take that feed and run with it. But for several hours, and maybe even a day or so before we really got the feed through, we wound up doing all our own originating programming, which is what we did all the time anyway. We were on the air 18 hours a day, and every bit of that program came out of this building.
Another breaking news story that the WTTV news team brought into your homes occurred in the late 70s. WTTV news photographer Jack Parker, who still works in the Indianapolis market, was there when Tony Karitzis took real estate executive Richard Hall hostage and marched him down the streets of Indy with a shotgun wired to his neck. Jack stayed with him, putting his own life on the line to film the incident. News director Jim Lockwood did the commentary, and the report made the early news with this dramatic footage.
This is News 4 Indiana with Rich Green and Chuck Workman Sports.
Good evening. Here's what's happening in our world tonight. A drama which began early this morning is still unfolding tonight on the west side of Indianapolis. A former West Point gun instructor, furious over a foreclosed mortgage, took a real estate company president hostage, marched him through downtown with a shotgun to his head, and then took him to the west side apartment where he remains to this hour. News 4's Jim Lockwood reports. The bizarre incident began at the Meridian Mortgage Company, 129 East Market Street in Indianapolis, where 44-year-old Anthony Karitzis shackled a sawed-off shotgun with tape and wire to the back of the head of Richard Hall. Hall is the president of Meridian Mortgage's parent company, Hall and Huddle Realtors. Karitzis then ordered Hall outside and down the street to the Penn Park garage, where the wired pair took the elevator to the 7th floor, where Karitzis had parked his car. Then, for some reason, Karitzis changed his plan and returned to Pennsylvania Street and started walking south.
surprising early morning pedestrians who were startled to see the two men with a shotgun between them. Karitzis, with Hall in tow, turned and walked west on Washington Street, stopping periodically to argue with police. Washington, Karitzis became irritated with police who were dogging his trail, and at that point, he came close to shooting Hall. Stay back. What are you doing with that thing? Yeah. Right in back. Regaining his composure, Karitzis continued west on Washington to Senate Avenue, where he commandeered a police officer who was stopping traffic and took the officer's car and gun. At that moment, an unidentified motorist caught up in the action crashed his car into a telephone pole. Karitzis pulled Hall into the car and forced him to drive west on Washington Street. An entourage of police cars joined in a sporadic chase to the far west side. During Karitzis' entire downtown walk with Hall, police marksmen were unable to shoot him because he had the wires so entwined around his body and Hall that any backward or forward movement on the part of either man would have triggered the shotgun.
And that's the situation as it is now. Still, police stand by on the west side of Indianapolis.
Rich Green joined the WTTV news team in May of 1969. An IU graduate, Rich went to Tech High School. Starting as a reporter, he soon became anchor for the morning news, then went on to become weekend anchor in 1972 and news producer in 1974. Rich may be best known for teaming up with Joni Kinsler for our popular Your Show, which later became known as Today in Indiana. Rich now works for CNN in Atlanta, and the last we heard, Joni was in Wisconsin. Joni was replaced by Suzanne Power in 1985. Suzanne, now Suzanne McAllister, continues with WB4 as the host of our weekly WB4 Indiana program. The concept of having news and talk shows originating from both our Bloomington and Indianapolis studios offered many opportunities for a unique brand of entertainment. It also gave many rising stars a chance. Mary Jane Popp went on the air in 1973 with a midday program called Second Cup. And in 1974, she hosted a talk program called Studio 4. Studio 4 was live Monday through Friday out of Bloomington. She would go on to co-anchor a mid-morning program with Doug Rafferty. When we return, we'll take a look at a WTTV personality who made it to Hollywood. But first, some trivia. What WTTV news anchor played an announcer in the 1979 hit Breaking Away? Was it A, Doug Rafferty, B, Paul Poteet, C, Don Benda? The answer when we return. 50 Years for Indiana is brought to you by Marsh. At Marsh, we value you.
For 200 years, he brought the world pain and sorrow. Now, an angel of darkness must make amends.
Are you still...
God!
There's not actually a cure for that.
About reaching out to people, showing them that there's hope left in this world.
His curse will be their salvation. David Boreanaz is Angel.
Coming October 5th to WB4.
This weekend, say goodbye to summer and to high furniture prices with half-off savings from Value City Furniture. Save half on a luxurious three-piece all-leather living room. Your choice of colors, just $1,198. Or save half on this stunning Italian bedroom. Pay just $398 for the armoire, the dresser and mirror, or the Queen King headboard with 2 nightstands. Don't miss the fabulous half-off Labor Day weekend sale at Value City Furniture. You just can't do any better.
the stuff? Hostess!
WTTV remembers 50 years for Indiana. Television was a crude medium when Sarkes Tarzian and his group of broadcasting pioneers first signed on in 1949. Bloomington only had 200 TV sets that could pick up their signal. They designed and built their own transmitter, monitoring equipment, and a studio camera with $400 in parts. From these humble beginnings, WTTV began its 50 years for Indiana. This television memory has been brought to you by Marsh. At Marsh, we value you and WB4.
A special announcement from the American Property Network. You can buy cars for as low as $500. Choose from thousands of cars repossessed and seized by the U.S. Marshal, IRS, FBI, and private organizations. Call 1-800-500-2213. Foreclosed homes and distressed properties are also available for sale. Call 1-800-500-2213. For current auction listings, call 1-800-500-2213. Call toll-free.
Father, daughter, conservative, liberal, Rachmaninoff, rock and roll, practical, not. What brings them to the table? Introducing Honey Nut Chex, a delicious new taste, an amazing new crunch. If they could share this family value, what next? Maybe conversation? Maybe after breakfast. New Honey Nut Chex. Welcome to Generation Chex.
If you're looking for a career that offers growth, opportunity, excitement, and the pay you need for the life you want, consider medical assistant training at Indiana Business College.
Being a medical assistant isn't for everybody. It takes a special type of person. One who enjoys working with people and can fit into the professional world of the doctor's office. If you're that type of person, this is a career with real satisfaction.
Call Indiana Business College now at 783-5100. That's 783-5100.